Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink, get yourself a snack, and we will get started. Today I have vanilla bean macaroon black tea. It is one of my faves. It's my last one, so I might be time to go back to the store. And I thought it'd be a great idea to try Gushers. Yeah, not so much. Anyway, let's get real. So I have an app on my phone called Time Hop that actually shows you the pictures you took a year or however many years ago, or the things that you put on social media. You connect it to all these different things, and it reminds you of things that you've done in the past. Now, we're currently in January, and every year this feed comes up, and it is a reminder of some complete chaos in our lives. So 9 years ago, we had this great idea for Christmas. My daughter was obsessed with a book called Humphrey. Now, it was about a little hamster that was inside of a school, and he had all these adventures. And she loved the book. In fact, that year for Christmas or for her birthday, I'm not sure which one, we actually had the author sign one of the books. So it was just like she still has them all. It was one of her favorite books. We even had, I think that year, she had a Humphrey birthday party. So everything was hamster themed. It was a very weird season. But one of the things that we thought would be a great idea, I don't know that it's a we, I think it was a Jenny thought it'd be a great idea. And Kevin was like, okay, go for it. I don't think this is a good plan. We got her a hamster. And yes, the hamster's name was Humphrey. And so Humphrey the hamster joined our family. We got him a cage. I cleaned the cage every single week. And because I was like, I remember when I had a kid, I never cleaned it. And I didn't think she was old enough to take that responsibility yet, more because I knew it would be weeks and then it would smell. So I just said, I'm going to clean it because it was not her idea to get the hamster. It was mine. So anyway, whole parenting thing that we don't need to go into. But I clean the hamster cage every single week. And so we're about a month into this hamster when he escapes and gets out of the cage. Now I have no idea how he got out of the cage. In fact, I'm not 100% sure I remember how he got out of the cage. But he was in my daughter's room and he got out. And it was a hamster hunt in this house. Like everything was torn out. Like we went and looked everywhere. It was like at first you're kind of just like looking under things, and we ended up moving a piano, moving our fridge. We put out traps, live traps, obviously. We put out flour. It's like you're looking at the feed from 9 years ago, and I have pictures of flour out so you could see where their little feet prints were. And yes, we found little feet prints, but guess what? It wasn't the hamster. We ended up catching live mice. Yes, I know, it's ridiculous. Anyway, I put out little caps of water so the hamster could get water. Like it was we had traps all over the house that people were like, oh, try this, try a bucket and then put something at the bottom that smells nice. And then they come out and, they can't get out of the big bucket, and put out peanut butter inside the live trap and like all kinds of stuff. We caught 2 mice and we had little feet prints, and we never found Humphrey. And even to this day, we joke about Humphrey being underneath, because we live in a trailer, and so it's all empty space underneath our trailer, that he is actually under our trailer ruling the mice. He has taken over. He's now has his own family, and he is the ruler underneath our house. But I will never forget that season. First of all, because when I'd go into work, people would be like, so is there any sign of the hamster? What happened last night? I'm like, I lost sleep during that time. I sat out in the kitchen because that's where we were seeing signs of what we thought was the hamster. And I'd sit out there and I'd pray, and we had to have conversations about, do hamsters go to heaven? Because at that time, I think my daughter was 8. And she was just completely devastated by her best friend, Humphrey, wanting to escape, and why would he want to escape? And if we didn't find him, does that mean he's dead? And does that mean he goes to heaven? Like, it was a complete and utter disaster. And I think we looked for like 2 weeks. And it wasn't like, oh, just, like look under a cushion. Like 2 weeks of tearing apart the house. Like, there was really we even went underneath what at that time we had like a jacuzzi tub in the back. We even opened that up to see if he got in and went somewhere. We found no signs. Like, it was crazy. I think our house was never cleaner. I mean, it was a mess because we had torn everything up, but we went through every closet and through every cabinet in the entire home. It was so wild. And as I was thinking about this season in our lives 9 years ago of us just completely tearing up our house, looking for this hamster, and yes, eventually Humphrey was replaced. And we got a new hamster on, I believe, like President's Day. That's what it was. I think it was President's Day that we got a new hamster. And his name was Chewbacca, and we called him Chewy. Oh, we're so nerds. Anyway, so we had a hamster for over a year, and I cleaned his cage every single day, and he was not nearly as friendly as Humphrey, because Humphrey liked to be held and liked to play, and he was Chewy was a chewer. He liked to bite you. He didn't really like to be out. He wanted to be in his ball or in his cage and be left alone. Like, he really had no concern that he wanted to be with anybody other than himself. So Chewy actually, I think, ended up being a little more my hamster than Samantha's, because Sam was like, he's loud, move him out of my room. So me and Chewy would be out in the living room, and he'd be up running around, and then when everybody else was awake, he'd be sleeping. Like, come on guys, I'm trying to sleep. But that season of always kind of wondering where Humphrey went and what happened to Humphrey, and we named the mice that we caught because we live trapped them, and one I think my husband like just put outside, and I'm pretty sure that the next day it might have been the same mouse, or it was his girlfriend. Sam thinks it was his girlfriend that just wanted to be with him, and then Kevin drove that mouse a little further away, and we never caught another one. But that season was a season that drove me crazy because I am not a person that likes to lose things. Which is quite often, I don't know where my phone is, or mostly my earbuds. Like, I can say, you know what I'm missing? And my husband's like, yeah, your earbuds, because I've put them down somewhere. I go crazy. It just drives me absolutely insane. I feel like our house is pretty organized, and like everything kind of has a home. And if it's not in that specific space, I just am like, why did someone move this? And normally it was me. So you can imagine during the season of the Humphrey hunt, it was complete chaos. I remember I didn't even make dinners during those like 2 weeks because the nights were just consumed with tearing things apart trying to find it. And our dog was just like, this is the silliest thing ever. Like, did you realize you invited a rodent into our home and now you're concerned about it? Like, he was just not having it. He was just so frustrated. That was the dog before this one. And so we really spent so much time looking for that silly little hamster. And I think about it now, and I think, would I do that again? And of course I would. Of course I would spend the time looking for a hamster because he was my beloved daughter's hamster who brought her joy, and he really was a sweetheart. And he was just, even though he was a rodent. See, when I say this, I'm like, Jenny, it's a rodent. Anyway, of course I would spend that kind of time and that kind of energy seeking after and looking for him. And of course, you know where I'm going, right? You know that this year for me, I have been really trying to think about how to seek after God in an imperfect way. Because I have been trying to seek after him in the way that I've kind of been taught to do, right? And that's not bad. It really isn't. It's not a bad thing. My pastor that I was raised with, still to this day, is my second favorite pastor because my husband's my favorite. But he really was so influential in my life, to the point that I was at a camp and someone said, well, why don't you do that? And I'm like, because my pastor said not to. Why would I even question it? He was such an amazing man. And so he would say, read through the Bible, Genesis to Revelations, every single year. And I have lived under that guilt for a long time because I'm not good at that. Bible reading is something I struggle with. I talk about that a lot here. It is something that I don't know how to do in the way that everybody else seems to be able to handle, because it overwhelms me. It feels like I should understand it more. It feels like when I'm reading through some of Paul's writing that I'm like, I'm not even sure I understood what he just said. It's so foreign to me. And granted, it is not written to the 2024 church. It's written to the Church of Corinthian. It's written to the Philippines. It's written in a different time. And I am like, I need to apply this to me. And I get that that's what we're supposed to do. But I feel like God is saying, Jenny, I want you to start following me imperfectly. I do not expect perfection out of this relationship that we have. And I'm trying to find freedom in that. I'm trying to find freedom in me seeking after God and looking for him the way I looked for Humphrey, as just a raw sense of it's what I want to do. No one said we had to search for the hamster. No one had rules, except for a lot of people gave suggestions. And a lot of people were involved, yes. I mean, because everybody was like, what's happening? Tell us what's going on. Try this, try that. All these different opinions. But the reason I kept seeking after the hamster is because of my love for my daughter, and that I didn't want to give up. I just didn't want to say he's gone, because I was like, maybe he could still be there. And I think that that's so important with my relationship with God. Is my love for him is what causes me to read my Bible. Not necessarily the rules and the make sure that you read 3.5 chapters in the Bible every single day to get through it, or make sure that you read the right translation of the Bible. It really is about my relationship, and that I just want to spend time with him. I want to understand who he is. I want to figure out more and more about who he is, and that's what it's about. And it's not going to look perfect. It's going to look messy. I'm going to make mistakes. It's not going to be something that I have it all together. It's going to be something that people are continually going, Jenny, maybe you need to try this. Jenny, maybe you need to try this. And that's okay, because I think that me just continuing and not giving up is really a win. I never found the hamster. I never found him. We don't know where he is. But I know that eventually I will find God. And that when I ask him to show up, he shows up. And he's always here, even whether I feel him or I don't feel him. And that I can imperfectly go after him. And people will give me suggestions and go, oh, Jenny, boy, did you make a mistake. And you know what? I do. And do I read my Bible every single day? Honestly, no, I don't. Because it is such a pressure thing for me. It is something that I feel so overwhelmed by some days that one scripture is enough. And I have them up all over my house, and I'll just have to walk up to the scripture and just say, this is going to need to be my scripture today, and I will meditate on that. And you know what? My imperfect going after God is okay. And so I just want you, as you're in this new year and you started your new reading plan and you are going after God the way that you know how to go after him, that it is okay to be imperfect. Because just the seeking and going after him is what he wants. He's not looking for you to have everything together and to do everything right and make sure that all of your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. He is just looking for you to come after him because he knows that we're imperfect. He knows that we don't have everything together and we have issues. And so I just encourage you, instead of the hamster hunt from 9 years ago, to go on a God hunt and know that it doesn't have to be perfect. Know that it can be in a way that works for you. And just go after him and see what God will do in 2025, even if you don't do it perfectly. Well, that's all I have for you this week. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Be Real at Real Life with Jenny. You can support this podcast by going to Buy Me a Coffee at Real Life with Jenny. And you can buy a coffee and that supports this podcast. You can also find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. All of my info is there. Feel free to send me suggestions. I would love to hear your suggestions on how you are seeking after God this year, what you're doing, what you've incorporated, what's working for you. Because, you know what, we learn from one another. But I know that God is okay with my imperfect seeking after him and that I just won't give up. I'm not going to give up on this journey that he's called me to, and I hope you don't either. Have a great week.